Welcome to BVZ and welcome to this episode of BVZ 5 Years
Thank you.
Old.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.
Shoaib, you are the founder of Scooty and one of our first cohorts
Yeah.
back in 2023.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little about your micro mobility business and how it began in Brampton as well as part of being BVZ?
Well, Scooty started to solve a pain point of getting to public transit.
Okay.
So governments here, federal, municipal, provincial governments do a great job in building public transit.
Mm-hmm.
But the question always is, how do you get to public transit?
Yes.
And so my daily pain point was, how do I get to my GO station, which is more effective, more efficient,
Yeah.
less stress-free. And I used to take my car every day to the GO station. For those of us who use that journey every day, it's a challenging journey,
Really?
and you're looking for a parking spot, or you're rushing,
Wow.
especially in the snow, or you're running late.
Yeah.
And I was in Washington, D.C. For work for some meetings on my last day of work. This was in 2019. We came across a scooter,
Okay.
and this scooter had this thing that said free $10 download and ride. So download the app and ride the vehicle, and you'll get $10 credit. And I was with a bunch of students, and we wanted to see the Obama portraits at the Smithsonian Museum. So it was about a 36-minute walk 36-minute walk from where we were
Okay.
to the museum. If you've been to downtown Washington, D.C., there's a lot of like one-way streets, Secret Service blockages, lots of
Yeah.
security challenges and so on. And Uber and Lyft had surge pricing
Okay.
at the time. So we were like, okay, let's just walk. But as we were walking, we saw these vehicles, download the app, and that gave me this aha moment. If this can happen in the US,
Why not?
why not here in Ontario? And so that led to the journey of starting this company called Scooty,
Okay.
which is to help people. In our industry, we call it first and last mile commuting.
Okay.
Just help them on their first and last mile commuting, making it easy by way of using micromobility vehicles, which is electric scooters and e-bikes.
I've seen a lot of purpose-driven words mentioned linked to Scooty. So how is this more a purpose-led, innovative service that you're providing? Can you talk more about that?
So we're filling this niche of short first and last mile commuting, which is in the industry, we call it a sweet spot of 3 to 5 kilometer radius,
Okay.
or 3 to 5 kilometer trips.
Okay.
So that niche had not been solved,
Okay.
and we were one of the first people to solve it by starting here our journey in the city of Brampton.
Wow. Okay. That sounds great. And that was in which year?
That was in 2023 is when we launched in the city of Brampton,
Okay.
but we were part of the ecosystem since about 2021, 2022. So
So-
before we came to the BVZ, we were at Brampton Entrepreneur Center. That's where we actually started our journey. We were part of their, I think they have this summer entrepreneurship program. We got a bit of a grant to start the business here in the
Nice.
city. Then we convinced council for us to do a pilot at Chinguzi Park during the height of the pandemic.
Nice.
Somehow we convinced council. Council said, you know what, go ahead, test this out. And we used that grant money. We signed up some credit cards to buy the vehicle, hire people, and run this crazy pilot. It was the first pilot in the history of the Greater Toronto Hamilton area of a micromobility program, and we pulled this off at Chinguzi Park. Big thanks to council. And that got the data that showed the city that this is a viable business for the city of Brampton to consider and allow to participate.
Okay.
So companies like us, Uber and Lyft and so on and so forth, in order for us to launch in any city, you need a permit.
Understood.
There are permits available for all kinds of businesses. Say you're a restaurant. You want to open up a restaurant in Brampton, there's a permit available. You want to start a construction company, there's permits available.
Got it.
So those are standard permits that are available in the city. A permit like ours did not exist.
Oh, okay.
So staff and council had to work together to figure out what does a permitting process look like.
So basically you started from scratch.
Zero,
with council.
ground
Okay.
zero, like in every sense of the word, ground zero, which is where we started ground zero.
Okay.
And Brampton was the first city to launch Brampton was the first to officially launch a micromobility program in the GTHA. And we were lucky to win the rights to operate amongst 8 companies that applied.
Wow.
3 companies got selected. We were one of the ones that were selected to operate in the city of Brampton.
Wow. And you've been partnering with the city from 2023 or earlier.
Yes, earlier.
That's been a long journey because I see recently as well, you guys launched something very interesting, which was an API integration for
Correct.
transit.
Yes, yes.
So how is that going and how's that journey been for you?
Our journey, so we did not want to focus on scooters and e-bikes only.
Yeah.
We believe that the future of mobility is multimodal. Say you, for example, today your needs are, I'm going to take my car to come to the place where we are doing this interview today.
Right.
In a few months from now, you might take a combination of car, bus, Uber, Lyft, whatever that service may be.
Yes.
And so you want to give people as many options available for them to move.
Got it.
What we have learned, the pandemic was a really interesting learning experience and a reflection experience for us. We have seen what happens to our communities when we don't move.
Yeah.
People move like water. We find the path of least resistance to go to wherever we need to go to. And so you want to give people multimodal options. And we believe that the future is what we have developed, an API integration where you would have a choice through an app to take a scooter, bike,
Yeah.
transit, car sharing, whatever that case may be, to get to your final journey.
And all through one app, one system.
So we call it one app, one method of payment, many ways to move.
Okay. So is this something that you're going to explore beyond Brampton, beyond the city of Brampton?
Absolutely. So we're already, from our launch in 2023, we're now in a lot more cities and a few more cities in the pipeline.
Nice.
We're now working on new software development projects for a couple of transit agencies as well.
Okay.
So that's exciting work. Can't say more about that, unfortunately. But it's been a great, journey, great growth opportunity, and we're so lucky to have started Scooty in the city of Brampton. The ecosystem is so strong here. Mayor, staff, and council are so, I would say, very bullish
Okay.
on allowing taking the first shot.
Nice.
So for us, companies like us, it's very difficult to work with cities because cities are by default don't want to take risks. Cities have multiple priorities:
True.
housing, transportation, healthcare, taxes, and so on and so forth. And so when you come up with a new idea like this, you need to have champions like the BVZ, Beehive, Brampton Entrepreneur Center as your first validation points.
Yep.
Through those validation points, you pass through that system, and that system is fairly not only aggressive, it helps you think beyond, as entrepreneurs, sometimes we have these blinders. We think what we know is absolutely right.
Yes.
But being part of these ecosystems helps you think beyond pure reference. And so we went through that system, and that's when we got in front of council where we were able to confidently say that here's a solution based on the culture and the ecosystem in Brampton. What we've also learned is no one city, not all cities are the same.
Yeah.
The culture is different. The communities are very different. The roads are different. The laws are similar, but the interpretation of laws can be different. Some cities want to try new things. Some cities want to wait for somebody else to have tried it. And then they will say, you know what, okay, our neighborhood city has it. Why don't we have? And so as a software company, you'd become a government relations company as well. And you have to speak to these folks, these decision makers, in the language they understand and answer any questions they have. So
you need to know your audience and
you have to know your audience.
Differ it according to
Oh,
them,
yeah.
right? Different
We wear
audience.
many hats. Like now I'm wearing the hat of a CEO. An hour from now I'm going to a meeting, I'm going to be wearing a hat of a software developer. So it really depends on who your audience is and how you're building. And we have to be flexible because the world is changing.
Of course.
AI
and
is changing
in the
so many
startup
things.
world, and when you're starting your business, that's always a gift, right?
Correct.
Coming back to the ecosystem supporter, so if we talk about just Brampton Venture Zone and your early stage development at that point, how do you feel BBZ kind of helped you push either through to the ecosystem? You're already part of the Brampton ecosystem as such, but how did it help you navigate that better, maybe, or maybe develop your business sense? Can you tell me a little more about that?
I think the biggest thing that BVC helped us is validation.
Okay.
So for us, it's not easy
Mm-hmm.
for you to get a meeting with public transit officials.
Yeah.
You can't just go cold email them and, or show up at their door and say, hey, I have this idea. BVZ facilitated various introductions for us that were vetted. So when you're meeting with these senior, very busy executives in public transit or any other organization, they have a very short amount of time. So you have to be vetted.
Okay.
Because we went through the process in BVZ, we were vetted. We were trained to ask the right questions. We were trained to answer how our technology is going to work. We were trained to understand policy. In our space, understanding transportation policy is very important.
Mhm.
How does your solution work with the current policy, whether it is municipal policy, provincial policy, public transit policy, whatever that case may be? So narrating that path
Mhm.
is where BVZ helps us. Also getting us in front of investors, some software developers. Like there was a software advisor at the BVZ when we first started. To this day, he's still, coaching us and guiding us on our software development. And he's been a huge support. If it wasn't for the BVZ, we would not have met this individual.
And this is an entrepreneur in residence that we had at that point?
Was an ERR.
Okay.
One of our key members that we didn't have at the time came from the BVZ.
Oh,
So
that's amazing.
this individual used to work at the BVZ. He's now part of a very significant part of our team.
That's amazing.
And so that BVZ, really gave us that launch pad to where we are today. And for that, I can
So
never
you
be
definitely
thankful.
got connections out of BBC.
Sure.
You got to get more into the ecosystem here
Yeah.
at Brampton,
Yeah.
whether it was with the government or with other organizations. Would you say in terms, because we were also at that point, from what I know, BBC was very early in our journey. Would you say, based on what you've seen now, because I know you've been working with our directors as well as the rest of the BBC leadership teams, do you feel they still help you in terms of that continuity to the city? Because I
Absolutely.
think that's kind of one of the mandates as well that BBC works around.
One of the great things the BBC does for us is inviting folks like us to come back and sharing our story. So every time that happens, we're meeting new people. We're getting introduced to new folks. We're like one of the most interesting meetings we had at the BBC was when we did a pitch to then former US Consul General.
Okay.
And she actually rode the scooter in the BBC.
Ah.
And it was such a bit of to our staff, it was a nail biting experience. Like they didn't want her to fall, but folks like her, we would never have access to,
Okay.
even post BVZ life. Keeping that relationship going with the BVZ is super helpful. It helps us continue to open up doors. It helps us share our story with the startups that are there so that we can tell them some of our lessons learned.
Nice.
When you're building a business, there's so much information out there. You
Yeah.
Google stuff, you can chat GPT stuff, you can Claude stuff,
True.
but you go down each one of those tools, I would call it a bit of a rabbit hole. And then you get, paralysis by analysis. Like,
Yeah.
how do I start? Where do I begin? And so we've gone through that system and we know where the key inflection
Elements.
points are and elements are. So, for example, not too long ago, someone reached out to me and said, "Hey, we heard you filed IP recently. Who helped you filing your IP and your patents?"
Yeah.
Right away, we connected them with our IP contacts and our lawyer because we know like these guys understand startups.
Yeah.
They're not going to waste your time. They know how to speak to startups.
True.
And they know that budget is always a constraint.
Yes.
So how do you stretch your dollar, but also at the same time, making sure that you're getting the right advice so that you can meet your milestones and goals?
I think that's one of the biggest things that I've seen is more this whole mentorship in this ecosystem, where even if there are different accelerators around or incubators around, each one is trying to help the others and the
Correct.
ones who come out, and that really works for the ecosystem. So how does Scooty contribute to community sustainability? More in terms of, so long term, how are you going to maintain that? Where do you see yourself in the next, say, 4 years at least, especially with the new integrations that you have with the API systems, not just for Brampton, but overall Canadian, or maybe globally, if that's where you're headed?
So we're calling our service mobility as a MaaS, like SaaS,
Okay.
but MaaS.
Nice.
So that's the direction that we're
MAS?
MAAS. So we are heading in that direction. So we will have multiple revenue verticals.
Okay.
Micromobility is one. There's going to be software. There's going to be API integration, and that's the direction that we always wanted to go.
Okay.
But the path was never a straight line. But that's where we're going, and we're very focused on towards achieving those goals. In terms of reaching sustainability, I think based on federal policies on more push towards EVs and EV type mobility, I think we're on the right track. You will use an EV car someday. You will use a micromobility vehicle someday. You may use our API for paying through multiple services. So one method of payment, many ways to move. And touch wood, I think we're on the right track.
Great. What would you say for the future entrepreneurs or those early stage ones who are coming up with ideas in this sector, especially micromobility? What should they be focusing on?
I think your solution has to benefit the maximum amount of people.
Okay.
So whatever you come up with, think of, a wide adoption opportunity, but also think of not only providing the service or building the service in Canada, but taking globally, especially seeing where the federal government is putting their bets on. So very soon, Prime Minister Carney is going to be in Japan. He's going to be in India. And he's going to a whole bunch of other countries. He has visited a few other countries, various places in the Middle East and so on and so forth.
Sure.
So where is the federal government going? Because that is going to dictate where the future of Canadian businesses are going to go. I guess de-risking our reliance on the United States. United States is a very important market, but we need to think beyond the United States. So I think those are important signals to look out for, but also being very in tune and in touch with, build a relationship earlier on. Don't try to build a relationship with councillors and city folks and others when you need them.
Okay. That's good.
Start early. And being part of incubators and accelerators like the BVZ does help in that journey.
Okay.
When we met these guys in 2019, we had no idea in 2025 this is where we would be. We kind of knew where we were going, but looking back, people always say, looking back, did we make the right call? Did we make the best decision at the time when based on the resources we had available? I believe so, yes. Could we have done something differently? Absolutely. But those relationships, the consistent guidance that we get from our elected officials, staff, and the ecosystem here has been huge and valuable. And we can take this learnings and take it to other cities as well, because there are as much as there are differences, there are also many commonalities. And cities want to know, where else have you done this before?
Yes, definitely.
So they want to de-risk by default.
Makes sense.
To see that, okay, you offered your solution, you've deployed your solution elsewhere, it has worked. What didn't work? What should we be doing differently?
So to
matter.
end, thank you so much
Of
for
course.
being also part of our cohort and our journey. But I'd just like to end with one. So very quickly, maybe in 1-2 words, explain how BVZ has helped you.
Where we are today would not have happened without BVZ. Plain and simple.
Okay.
Plain and simple.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for being here.
Thank you
and
for having
being
me.
part of this journey.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.